Thank you for joining us on a new episode of Hewnlife Talks. I'm Olamide Ayodele, your host. A lot of people ask me what Hewnlife means. The whole concept of Hewnlife was created from just wanting to help people discuss social issues prominent in today's society and looking at things from a Christian perspective and how we can apply principles from the Bible to our own personal lives to achieve success. If we look at the literal meaning of hewn, it means to chisel or to carve something out of wood or out of stone or out of a rock. Isaiah 51:1 says, if you're looking for righteousness, or those who pursue righteousness should go to the rock from which they've been hewn or to the quarry from which they've been dug. So how can we now chisel or carve our lives such that we're able to achieve success? And I find that particularly with the modern woman today, women are doing a lot to carve out their lives, to chisel their lives, to heal their lives, to achieve success. I'm also finding that women are now becoming more passionate about other women. Women want to empower other women. Women want to empower themselves. Women are laser focused now with their vision and their goals. And there's no stopping the women of today. Modern women are unstoppable. That makes me really proud. And it also makes me have its solidarity for my fellow women. And today's guest is no different. She's a woman who embodies the Proverbs 31 woman. She's a hardworking woman, a mother to 3 beautiful children. She's a wife. She started her career in the law and then has moved through from project management to business analysis. She's a founder of a not-for-profit organization, Empower a Woman. She also owns a social media platform, Activate the Real You, where she talks to women to empower them, to strengthen women, to give women resilience in order to help them achieve success. And my guest today is also an author. She's written 4 books. We're going to be discussing some of her books today. The 3rd book being 5 Habits of Godly Resilient Women. My guest today is Mrs. Amanda Bedzrah. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Amanda, you inspire me so much. When I Googled you, I was just really fascinated, particularly by your passion for women. You want to empower women. You want women to be resilient. Well, judging by your book, you want women to be powerful. You have a passion for women that you don't even know. And I recently read on social media that your ministry or your not-for-profit organization had prepared, multiple gifts, and you delivered them to women in the prisons, and you got responses back acknowledging and, thanking you for your kindness. I'm very passionate about the woman myself. I'm passionate about our gender. I'm passionate about what women today are achieving. But when I Googled you and when I spoke to you and when I read your book, 5 Habits of Godly Resilient Women, the scripture that kept coming to my head was Proverbs 31, because you're a grafter, you're hardworking, you're finding things to do with your hands. And not only that, you're lending your hands out to other women. You're very compassionate. So the first thing I'm just gonna ask you, how do you find the time to juggle all of these roles without dropping the ball on any?
It's so interesting because until you hear somebody say it, you don't realize how much you do. And for a minute, I sat down there and I'm thinking, is she talking about me?
Oh yes, I'm talking about you.
Well, I wouldn't say I don't drop the ball. Because that's the question you asked me. How
Yes.
do I do with that?
How do you not
Do you
drop
know
the
what?
ball?
To be honest, there's sometimes I take the ball and I throw it at the wall.
Depending on which ball it is.
Depending on which ball it is, it gets hard, it gets tiring. But you know that old adage that says, when you're passionate about something, it's not work. The things that I do are things that I love. And as tiring as they can be sometimes, as hard as it can be, I just love what I do. So I don't consider it to be work. I actually consider it to be a real privilege to be able to do all the things that I do.
Wow.
However, in saying that, I don't do everything at once. So I do things in seasons. I have learned to listen and to ask God to say, okay, fine, God, you've given me all these gifts, you've given me all these responsibilities. What do you want me to do now? What am I supposed to be doing in this season? And that's something that I've learned over the last year, to be honest. Because when I started initially, I was doing everything at the same time. And I found myself getting really tired and sometimes getting burnt out. But because it's something that I love to do, I continue to do it. But I've learned that, you know, I need to slow down. I need to do one thing at a time, and I need to focus. So it's just what I'm doing in the right season. There's some things that we can do, you know, 2, 3 times, 4 times at the same time. You know, as women, we've learned the art of multitasking, isn't it? So sometimes I multitask, but I would say I don't do everything at once. I try to do what I'm called to do in the, you know, for a particular season in the meantime. But it sounds a lot, but I don't do everything at once, which is great.
Do you have help?
Help, it depends on what. So family life, my husband has been so supportive. He's a great father to the kids.
I think that's really important.
It's so important because he sees what I do, he loves what I do, and he supports the ministry in that he gives me the freedom to go out and be me. Yeah. He gives me the time to do all the training that I need, or to just the time to be able to go away to write. Or he would take the kids away for the weekend so that I can have the time to just focus, or he will let me go away for the weekend. So he's supportive in that way, and he's the biggest help of all, because if I didn't have that kind of support, my family life will be out of balance. Yeah. So that's the first, you know, in terms of help. In terms of help, I have a lot of women that are just in my life that pray for me, because I need that. I need that spiritual covering. I need women that are standing there as mothers that would just pray into my life, and they know when to pull me back. You know, I've got Jane Morgan, who is an absolute treasured friend of mine. I've got Carol Bostock, who's like my spiritual mom. I've got Jennifer Rizla-Combe, who is an established author in her own right. She's been writing for so many years. She's an award-winning Christian. But it's such a privilege I can run to her, not just for support with my book, but also for emotional and spiritual support. And then there's my friends and my sisters and my family. So I've got that grounding in that I have people that are praying for me, and people that would say, Amanda, you're doing too much, you need to rest. You need to stop this now.
I'm so inspired by the fact that you have people standing in the gap. Yes. In terms of prayers.
It's so important, yes.
It's so important, and that you can genuinely rely on them to just pray for you and know that they're praying. Just that knowledge that they're praying for you. I think it goes a long way, definitely. And in terms of mentors, I can't tell you how important that is as well. So I'm glad you have that. I mean,
so all the women that I've talked about are spiritual mentors. You know, they pray for me and they speak to me. Yeah. You know, I love that I can have people that I can go to and I can be vulnerable and be able to say, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know what this means. I've got my friend Rachel. She's just, she's a rock that I can lean on. And then my friend Doing, when I need practical advice and I need somebody that is going to tell me as it
exactly as it is,
I go to Doing, and she would be like, do you know what? You need those kind of people in your life. Yes. You know, and I think as women, sometimes we want to do things ourselves, or as African women. But we need to understand that we need those spiritual mentors, people that we can look up to, people that we can be vulnerable with, people that we can be honest with. And I'm just so privileged. I've got them.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
How does one approach someone to mentor them?
Well, I think the first thing when you're thinking about a mentor is you want to have somebody that has done what you want to do. And you see that in them and you recognize that in them. And then also you want it to be somebody that you respect and you can trust. Yes. Because if you can't trust your mentor, then you're not going to be vulnerable. And you need that vulnerability for them to be able to tell you the things that you actually need to do. You don't want somebody that you're going to go and impress, or somebody that you're going to tell things that are not the way that they are. You want somebody that you can just be completely honest with. So you need a mentor that has been there, done that, knows what they're doing. You need a mentor that you can be real with, somebody that you trust, somebody that you feel comfortable talking to, and building that right relationship. You know, even though you're a mentee, they're given to you, but you're giving to them in a way without even knowing. So you just need to have that right relationship with them. And sometimes it just comes out of the people that you already know, the friendships that you already have. So it's not about going to look for somebody. The mentors, the women that I have in my life are people that I've known for years. I've been able to build that relationship with them. And I respect them and I trust them. But I think sometimes you're looking for a mentor, you want to go and look for some stranger or somebody that you think is the ideal person. But actually, God is a God of order and strategy. If you took time and you looked around, you realize that God has already put people in your life. You know,
I think that humility
is the humility to be able to ask and come under. Absolutely.
Humility to be vulnerable and to say, you know, you've done something that I am aspiring to, or you're someone that inspires me, and I would like you to guide me or mentor me. Well, I really like that. Tell me, Amanda, how does this book, 5 Habits of Godly Resilient Women, differ from your previous books, your first 2, The Love That Set Me Free and Overcoming the Fear of Death? How is this different from those?
The Love That Set Me Free is actually my baby. It took me 3 years to write that book for so many reasons. It's my journey, my personal journey from overcoming a childhood of sexual abuse and finding God right in the middle of my brokenness. And I think that's so important because sometimes we're going through stuff and we're kind of like, you know, God, where are you? Is God even there? So for me, it was being able to recognize God's hand in everything that I've been through and being able to see him, to hold on to him, to acknowledge him. And that journey of brokenness to wholeness, you know, that's what's in that book. And the feedback has been amazing. There are people that have said, you know, just reading this book has changed my life. And it's not specific to people that have been through any kind of abuse. But if you've been hurt and if you've been broken
in any
way, and you just, you know, because sometimes when you hear somebody else's story, it inspires you. Especially when you look at the person and you think, well, if she can do it, then I can do it too. So that was really what that book was about, you know, just that journey and even being able to articulate my past as a way of saying I've moved on from that.
Yes. So the book, did it help you?
It helped me. Do you know what? It helped me immensely. And one of the things that I fought with when I was writing that book was, you know, God, who's going to read this?
Really?
And God really had to speak to me about the one. Even if it changed one person's life, it's important. And I finished writing the book and I went back and I read the book and I realized that it had changed my own life. So even if it was just me, it would have been enough. So there are times when I'm going through something and God says, go back and read chapter 2 or chapter 3. And I go back and I read my own book.
For yourself.
Exactly. It's a blueprint for my own life, you know. And if it's good enough for me, then I want to believe that it would.
I read it and I loved it.
Well,
I did.
There you go.
I did.
So that was the first one. And then the second one, Overcoming the Fear of Death, is a very small book. It's only an electronic book on Kindle. And again, it has come out of my experience. I saw my brother's dead body when I was about 11 and a half, just almost 12. And that was one incident that introduced me to pain, to heartbreak, because we're really close. He's my only brother. And
you were so young.
And I was young. And, you know, we're in a culture, I grew up in Nigeria, and in our culture, when you lose a loved one, the focus really is always on the parents. By default, you know, we don't have the counseling for children, how to deal with loss. It's almost like you're left on to just get on with it. But then you see all the friends and families, you know, around your mom, around your dad,
parents,
giving them the emotional support. But there was never really anything for us as children. And because I spent more time with him, you know, my older sisters, my middle sisters were in boarding school when he died. Even when I heard he had died, I ran all the way to the hospital, you know, took the sheets off him and I saw him.
Oh my God, that's a lot for an 11-year-old.
It was traumatic. And
it's a lot.
It introduced me to the fear of death. And I didn't realize that's what it was and how it had affected my life for so many years until God started to bring healing. So it's just really about that journey and practical things that people can do, you know, to deal with that kind of fear.
Coming the fear.
And to get themselves ready.
Whilst I haven't experienced death like you have, particularly at a young age, I've always had the fear of death. because it's such an unknown.
It's such an unknown.
You know, and having kids as well, it just puts it in a whole different perspective.
Absolutely.
It's a whole different ball game now for me. You know, I'm driving sometimes, I envision myself in an accident. What if something would happen now? And I just panic and I say a prayer and I just think of my kids and like, God, please just preserve me, you know? So I can totally imagine that. That is one of your books I haven't read, but I will.
Yes.
I will get to it and
I'll
I'll read
tell you
it.
what God said to me about that book during that process, which I think is something that will be important to share. Like you said, becoming a mom, what would happen to my kids? What would happen to my husband? What would happen to this? You know, you almost feel so needed. Yes. That you're afraid that if you die, how would the world go on?
Go on, yes.
How would their world go on? What would happen? And I remember saying to God, you know, God, what will happen to my children if I'm not here to look after them? And God said to me, he said, Amanda, your biggest problem is pride. Because you sit there and you think that you are the one that's looking after them right
even
now. And you know, I took a few steps back and I was like, well, actually,
wow.
They wake up each morning by God's grace. They are breathing by the grace of God.
That's a deep way to look at it.
You know, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm supporting them, but actually they would exist without me because God is the one who's looking after them.
Yes.
And as soon as I got that revelation, it was like, I can breathe. I can just let go. I can trust God. You know, so it's just practical things like that is within that book. And even things like insurance. You know, as growing up in Africa, insurance is not something
we don't even talk about.
It's not a language that we understand.
Or having a will.
It's
not something we really talk about.
We insure our cars, we insure our house, we don't insure our own lives. Because we have to.
Because the law says you have to insure your car. If not, I don't think that a lot of people would insure their cars in Nigeria. Yeah.
So insurance, I talked about the importance of having, you know, critical care insurance, life insurance, just those things that would make it easier.
Yes.
For your family if you weren't there.
Happen.
Yes. So wow. I felt it was necessary to put that as part of the book, just to encourage people to do it. Yeah. You know. So.
Yes. Can I talk to you now about Empower a Woman?
Yes.
Your non-for-profit organization. So I read on social media around the December period about you packaging gifts, loads of gifts, because I saw the pictures, and you sent it to the prisons, to women, just to empower them. How does that work out? How does it play out with you? Do you have a group of people that help support you with that? Or is this something that you do on your own? And please tell us why you do it.
Okay, so once a year, or actually, the main thing that I do with Empower Women is smile gifts. It was a vision that God had given me, and the heart of it is just to give gifts to women that would not normally get gifts.
Wow.
Women that are in prison, women that have left their homes because of domestic violence, women that are struggling financially. You know, Christmas is such a big thing, especially here in the UK. And there are lots of organizations that make provisions for kids, which is absolutely great. It's lovely for every child to be able to get a gift. But then what about the women that would not ordinarily get gifts or are not even able to buy anything for themselves? And so God gave me that vision to do smile gifts as a way to give...
Smile as in...
Smile. Yes. Just to bring a smile to their faces, but then also the real heart behind what's in the gift is the hope that it brings. Is being able to say to these women, even just once a year, that there's somebody thinking about you.
Yes.
That there's somebody that values you enough to go through the trouble of
buying stuff and packaging it and sending it
for you.
You're worthy. It's a way of saying you're worthy.
You have value. You mean something. There's someone that's thinking about you.
I could cry.
And you know, when God gave me that vision, I was like, I didn't think that it was enough. But this last year, December last year, was the 4th year that we had done it. And we started the first year, we did only 100 gifts. But last year we did
only?
9.
You call that only?
Compared to last year, we did 900.
900 gifts?
Gifts.
When you say we, who's in that circle with you?
So this year, I had a friend of mine who just took responsibility for one prison. So she did 100 gifts. Her name is Stephanie, and she's absolutely beautiful. So she did 100 gifts. And it was something that she wanted to do, and she did it with her kids. And it was an opportunity for her to talk to the kids about women that are vulnerable and about compassion and about giving. So she did it with her daughter and her son, and they were all involved. And she did the gift bags, and she delivered it to one prison. I also had Abigail Ministries, that's run by the beautiful Victoria Lawrence. They did 285 gifts.
Wow.
So they took responsibility for one prison, and we packaged all the gift items and they did it. And then I did the rest.
Wow.
With my sister came to help. She's my absolute rock. So she came to help. And I just had a few other friends that came, they'll drop in, we'll do it over tea, over coffee. And that's how we've done it over the years. It's become more of a social thing. So there was 300 gifts that we did in Jubilee Church in Maidstone. They were very kind to give us their community center. And that was organized by a friend of mine called Janine. And Janine brought 3 other girls, and there was 4 of us. We went in there and we just gift bag after gift bag after gift bag, laid all the gift bags out, put all the gift items, because each bag had 8 different items in it. And what we put in the bags are practical things that these women would need. So toiletries, toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, just the basic essentials that they would not normally have. So I had a lot of help this year, more than any other year, but it's grown.
In terms of empower a woman and activate the real you, they're linked obviously, because you're talking both Empower a Woman, which is your non-for-profit, and your platform, Activate a Real You. They're both linked because they help women. Why are you so passionate about the other woman?
The best way to describe it is, when you've been through certain things, you love much because you've been forgiven much.
Wow.
And I'm such a Mary. I am a terrible sinner. I mean, the things that I have been, I read that story in the Bible and I identify with her, because the things that I've been through, oh my word, I can't even begin to tell you how much I've forgiven. And thinking about it would, bring tears into my eyes. I don't want to cry on TV. So I understand. I'm not in prison, not because I haven't done things that would end me in prison, but because of God's grace.
Grace.
I've experienced poverty. I know what it's like to be down there.
You're going to make me cry.
So
the reality is, even though we're empowered, I see power in our tears.
Yeah.
I see it because it takes courage for you to reach deep down and deep down dig up emotions and dig up memories and dig up reasons to look back and say, I identify with you, I feel you, and I'm going to be on your side. Woman to woman, we're together.
I always say that I'm not afraid to be vulnerable if it will give another woman the opportunity to be strong.
Yes.
So if I need to share a bit of myself that would give you the courage to think, yes, I can do it.
Yes.
That's absolutely fine.
Yes.
So I want to empower women because I know what it's like to be on that side. And what you want for yourself, you should be able to give to other people. I want someone to give me a gift. I want to be able to smile. I want somebody out there to be thinking about me. And so that's why I do it. It's easy to say, God said so. And that's true. It's a vision that He's given me. But it's a vision that's been born out of understanding, out of walking that road. And now being able to give back, it's a privilege.
Yes. I think a lot of people, even though we've been through stuff, it's still difficult for a lot of people to empathize and put themselves in other people's shoes and say, if I was in their shoes, how would I want people to treat me? What kind of reaction would I want people to have when they know of me, or even without knowing of me or knowing me? How would I want people to perceive me and to see me and to treat me? Am I worthy? And in terms of 5 Habits of Godly Resilient Women, this is so well written. It's an excellent book. One of your habits out of the 5 habits that intrigues me is where you say women should tell their stories to encourage other women, and that it helps with healing and recovery and resilience as well. How does that pan out? So if I'm telling my story of something that's happened to me, doesn't that make me more vulnerable?
No.
Do you not think?
No.
Okay.
Because I think about my life and I think about the things that have happened, and being able to share those things from the incidents to the victory reminds me of what God has done. It reminds me of who I was and who I've become. And that gives me strength, because if he could do it in this situation, why wouldn't he do it in another situation? Because sometimes we forget. And the Bible tells us that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, but by the word of our testimony. Because our testimony reminds us of the goodness of God. It gives us strength. It says that, when you can talk about something, it doesn't bother you as much. That's a way of stepping over it. That's a way of
saying it's water under the bridge now. I'm over
it. It doesn't
healing.
It's not hold me back. Absolutely.
It won't hold you back.
And you just never know who needs to hear what you have to say.
Yes. Amanda, I could go on and on and on with you. I really enjoy just talking to you, and thank you so much for coming to Hewnlife. Thanks a lot for sharing. I'm just going to recommend 5 Habits of Godly Resilient Women. It's on Amazon. All you have to do is Google it. Thank you so much, Amanda, for coming. Until next time, stay blessed.